Oh god yes, horror Mike.
Hey, bartender, come here.
Yes, sir?
I'm getting kind of hungry. What do you got to eat?
Oh, well, we have beer nuts and we have deer nuts.
What's the difference?
Well, beer nuts are $1.25.
Yeah?
And deer nuts are always under $1.
What? Why you? I oughta...
A desperate band of nuclear survivors stumble upon shelter where they seek protection from deadly radioactive rain.
But the stuffers upstairs blew up from the radiation. I mean, we got it made here.
But their dreams of safety turn into a nightmare of horror when they are confronted by the Creepazoids. Creepazoids. Even if you kill them, they're still deadly. Creepazoids.
World of pets. There is an animal in every woman. Rare and dangerous species.
See that road to the right? Take it.
That's not the way
The
to...
road, I said.
Wild, untamed.
All right, smart.
Bonnie. Candace Rylson as Bonnie. Sensuous. Sexual. Cruel. Joan Blackman as Geraldine. A woman filled with strange desires.
Well, all females want to be played with.
Vincent. Ed Bishop.
All my pets, they love me, you know. But I must punish them when they deserve it.
Pets. Fondle them. Pets. Play with them. Love them.
Don't leave me.
On your knees.
Break them.
Crawl!
But watch out. Pets. They bite. Pets rated R.
New shades on, look absolutely fine. Stroll down the lane, all the passers-by. No time of day, no, I don't get none. I turn away frustrated.
scene.
Oh, folks, welcome to the Horror Mike Show on this fine and fiendish Friday night. You've just watched a few trailers. The last one was Geek War, which is, of course, on Tubi. We're going to be taking a closer look at that later on this evening. And it is hilarious. Perfect, no budget, fantastic comedy. It is freaking side-splitting. You got to check it out. Before that, the 1973 classic Pets. Oh, yeah, we're talking grindhouse exploitation out the wazoo on that one. And, of course, the first one that we looked at was Creepazoids. Creepazoids starring Linnea Quigley, who's, she's pretty much en naturel in many parts of this film. And this is, I believe, just a few years later after Return of the Living Dead. So it's Linnea Quigley in top form, if you know what I mean. And I think that you do. But without further ado, let's take a look at the chat, shall we? Well, yes. I know a few people have come onto the scene. Good Lord. We have Michael Taylor here. Hello, Michael Taylor. Great to see you, man. Kevin Helen is here. Hello, Kevin. Good to see you. Joe is here. Hello, Joe. Good God, man. Gary Carlisle is in the house. Hello, Gary. Good to see you, sir. Steve Harrison is here. Preparation C for my Creepazoids. Folks, you're going to need a tube of that Preparation C. That's to what Steve is talking about right there. God. Hello, Gary. How you doing, man? PBR Street Gang is here. Hey, 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 and hey, back at you, PBR. Good to see you here, my good man. Brian Baugh is here. Hello, Brian. Great to see you, man. Hopefully we'll get you on the show sooner than later to talk about your forthcoming new Wolf and Batsy comic book. Boy, I tell you, now this is something that I'm really looking forward to, folks. You know I love Wolf and Batsy. I've shown my Wolf and Batsy comics to you guys. And Brian's coming out with a few more brand new issues very soon. So we're going to find out about that. Hopefully we can get him on the show and talk some Wolf and Batsy and some pre-code horror comics. That's what I'm talking about right now, folks. Let's see who else we have here. Okay, that's Michael Taylor. Yes. Brian. Yes. I second that, Brian. Indeed. Steve Harrison says, I'm here for the 64 pages of goodness. Yes, folks. It's hard to believe. I keep looking at it and thinking it's a dream or a nightmare, but it is real. Indeed, my 64-page book is alive. It is for sale. Oh, hold on. Brian says, yep, been doing my Robert Webb research lately. Yes, you have, my good man. That story about Feldstein and Robert Webb is just, that is one for the books. You're going to hear about that too, folks, soon. It is classic. It's so classic. It's just, once again, and I've mentioned this on the show before, it is absolutely amazing to me that nobody has done a book about Robert Webb. This guy not only did a ton of work, comic book work, during the Golden Age, during the 1940s, but he was one of the greats, absolutely, in my book, I think many others, in the 1950s, in the pre-code horror era, and nothing on the guy. You find books about other artists of the time, pre-code horror, sci-fi artists, of course, but not much on Robert Webb, but that may have to be rectified soon, folks. That's what I'm talking about right here. Steve says, Wolf and Batsy rule. Yes, they do, and they're going to rule some more. Very soon, very soon. Can't wait to see your new book, Mike. Yes. It is coming right up, folks. Here's the thing. There's a couple of things that I want to show you about the book. Now, this is it. Currently, I've got it bagged and boarded. This is my copy. This is the test printing, right? And so I got the test printing. Turned out freaking awesome. And, you know, as you notice on the cover, there's no UPC because I hate UPC labels, folks. I hate it, especially on covers, on front covers. I don't even like it on back covers. So what's going on is that on the back of the backing board, when you get your copy, there's the UPC label. It's on the back on the backing board. That's where it belongs, in my opinion. I just don't like them. I do not. When you look at a golden age comic book, and that's the whole thing. There's no UPC. Okay, there's no freaking white blotch of a label on it. It's just pure golden age horror goodness. And that's what I'm talking about right now, folks. And so that was the thing. I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm not putting the UPC label on there. And I'm glad I didn't. It just looks a billion times better like this, So there you go. And that is, of course, the glorious front cover splash of horror. Now, one thing that I know last week I showed a bit of this, but there's something that I didn't explain, and it's kind of a big thing. Okay. Now, we all know that Golden Age comic books, Silver Age comic books, to Bronze Age, to current comic books are different sizes, right? This is technically a current age comic book size. Okay. But I did something a little different. Okay, let me explain. Here is a coverless version, it's a coverless copy of an issue of Mysteries Weird and Strange with a fantastic Iger Shop splash page right there, The Howling Horror. I mean, check that out. It's beautiful. You will notice a couple of things on this. One, the page, of course, it's tanning. It's, it's over 70 years old. It is tanning. The colors are slightly faded. This is a Golden Age comic book, folks. These are the dimensions. If you bought one back in the early 1950s, you'd open it up and you'd see this in this dimension. Okay. Check this out. I pulled a sneaky one, folks. And I was very careful to do this, at least for most of this entire book. Here is my reproduction of that page, The Howling Horror. You will notice a couple of things right off the bat. It is much cleaner. It's more vibrant. The colors are better. It's less tanned. Okay. But there's another thing about it. It's the exact same size as the Golden Age splash page. And I made sure that that was going to happen. Let me show you. I think I can do this pretty easily here. I just match it up so you can see for yourself. You see the lines there? Follow the vertical lines. That's what I'm saying. You will see that it is almost precisely the same dimensions. So what I've done in this current comic book is that I have pushed the margins. You notice, check out here we go. Okay. You will see the margins here, which are, I push them to the edges, and it's fine. It's not a problem. It doesn't cut anything off. I was extremely careful, and I was wondering when I got back this test print how that would work. It worked like a charm. So, in a typical comic book, as you can see, check out those margins. What I simply did is I made sure that the, splash pages matched as much as possible to the original size of the Golden Age comic book. So there you go. You're not losing anything, and perhaps you're gaining. Okay. That's what I'm saying right there, folks. So there you go. That's the deal. That was one of my big issues with doing this whole thing is I wanted to, I didn't want to shrink the things down to current size comic book form. That would be not good, in my opinion. I couldn't live with it. So not only, God, this is just so good. There's Basil Wolverton's Swamp Monster. You are getting the full size that you would have gotten in the pre-code comic book. Okay. I believe that was Weird Tales of the Future. No, I'm sorry. That was Weird Mysteries. Basil Wolverton's Swamp Monster. So what you're looking at right here is from Stanley Morris magazine Shock. And so Stanley Morris in the 60s, he put out the magazine Shock, Chilling Tales of Horror, Stark Terror, etc. And they were reprints of a ton of his pre-code horror comic books, such as Weird Mysteries and Weird Tales of the Future and Weird Chills, another great one. These are directly from my issues, folks. I reproduce these directly from my magazines, and they turned out beautifully. They are sharp as a tack, and they are the size of the original pre-code comics. That's what I'm saying. It's as good as I could really get it. Check this out. You got Death Prowls the Streets. That, of course, is Jack Cole. And then 10,000 Years Old. That is a young Ross Andrew. Years before Spider-Man, etc. Ross Andrew was doing pre-code. And he did this one for Weird Tales of the Future. So, as I was saying, I think I mentioned this in the last time. This is split up into 3 sections. The first section has, of course, the color splash pages. That is more, both of these are Jack Cole, by the way. Jack Cole was one of the greatest, in my opinion. Web of Evil for quality comics. That guy was insane. He was so good. So you're going to see a bit of Jack Cole in here. But then the second section is Stanley Morris. And you guys have seen this. I know I showed this to you last time. But check out Lynn Streeter's art for the Zombie's Eyes. That is so wickedly good. I mean, genuinely high-end stuff. The design, in my opinion, everything about it. And then you have Ogden Whitney on the opposite side with Captain Crossbones. And while that's more of a dark fantasy, not exactly a horror one, that splash page is just too good. I could not leave it out. It is it's in one of the magazines. I did all of these reproductions, folks. These are all, by the way, most of the ones that you see that are my reproductions in here are not scans. These are photographs. I took these photographs with my Canon 5D Mark III, which is an exceptional camera. I shot some of my films with the Canon 5D Mark III. It takes insane photographs. I mean, the stills are just out of this world. Check out the bat in the brain. Gus Rica, another great Golden Age artist. So then in section 3, oh boy, this stuff is just too good. It's too good. You got, there's some Robert Webb. And you got just 2 greats from Iger Shop. Side by side here, folks. Trumpet of Doom, that is Robert Webb art. And that is from Haunted Thrills. And then you've got The Bloody Axe. Guess who that is? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right, but this guy was awesome. Cirillo Munoz? Moon? Is that correct? Hold on. Yeah. Kind of an odd name, Cirillo Munoz, and I believe that was originally, it was, if I'm not mistaken, Matt Baker. I may be wrong on that, but in any case, that's the third section, which is Eerie Publications. As you guys know, Eerie Publications would take the original art and they would do one of 2 things. They would gorify it. In other words, they would add blood and graphic gore. This is a good example here. This is Monster Mill, originally from Haunted Thrills. And as you can see, the woman's face, she's got a chunk ripped out of her face. That was not in the original. The blood, that's not in there. So they added that stuff for Eerie Publications. So there you go, folks. I hope I'm not freezing too much. I noticed a lag there. But that is Splash of Horror. And let me do something right now. Why, it's right there. Here is the I just dropped the link so you can check it out and read a little more about it and buy it. Now I have a link that's domestic shipping, US, and then I have 3 links at the bottom, Canada, Australia, and the UK for any purchasers in those areas. Because you know how it goes. You got varying postal rates all over the freaking place. So I split them up. Now I can tell you a couple of things. It is going to be on Amazon. It's probably eventually going to be on eBay. Here's the thing. The copies, I'm getting 20 more copies, right? They are being printed now. They'll probably be shipped to me on Monday, which means I will get them definitely by Friday. The printer actually is here in Florida, so it only takes a couple of days and I get them. So they'll be all, if you buy it now, it will definitely ship by next Friday, the 26th. That's what I'm saying. That's the target, and it seems like that's exactly what's happening. There were no hiccups on this. I was through and through. I loved it. I could not believe these guys, the way the print job, absolutely fantastic. And so they, there was nothing to revise or change and so forth. So I just immediately put in an order for 20 copies. Those copies I get and I can sign them. Then I can send them to you. I'm not charging anything extra. I'm absorbing the postage. I'm paying, of course, postage to get those 20, but then I'm just sending them out normally at $8.50 plus $4 for shipping. So, folks, I'm making a grand total. I'm netting about $2 per copy. So this is not a get rich quick scheme. I can tell you right now, it's definitely the margin is not that great, but it's fine. Look, it's something I wanted to do, you know. Let me get back to the chat here. Sold, just placed my order. Thank you, Brian. Yes, my good man. I tell you, what you were talking about with Wolf and Batsy, something you're going to do. I'm not going to mention it because it'll spoil it. Folks, if it happens, it's going to be so cool. As it is right now, there are new issues coming out this year. And as I understand it, perhaps it's beginning in February sometime. So I'm hoping to get Brian back on the show. As you recall, he was on the show, God, maybe it was about a year ago, less than a year ago. But, you know, it's been a little while anyways. And it was a hoot. I mean, it was great, man. We had a great time talking about comics, you know, horror comics and so forth. And, you know, so I'm really looking forward to getting him back on very soon. So that's going to be quite groovy indeed. Eric is here. Hello, Eric. How are you doing? Okay, I've missed some stuff. Sorry about that, guys. Good Lord. Okay, I really kind of screwed up on that. Sorry. Oh, here we go. All right, let me get, I think this is the last one. As I always say, the stuff that this comic book community produces is just as good as anything Marvel and DC produces. Well, thank you, Michael Taylor. I mean, look, there's a, you know, full disclosure here, folks. This is my first comic book. I guess you could call it a comic book. I kind of call it an art book or a reference book. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of more along those lines. And you might even call it a bit of a fanzine too, because I am a pre-code horror comics fan. First and foremost, that's why I made Haunted Thrills and Witch Tales, which was based upon pre-code horror stories. So it was like just stuff where, you know, I've got original pre-code comics. I've got a ton of reprints. And so I read them, reread them and stuff. And I'm always looking at the splash pages. I'm always drawn to those. I'm always, you know, it's like one of those things that if the splash page doesn't catch you, you're going to move on to the next story and you might read that one before you come back to the other story. It's just got to have a grabber. Obviously, it's an opener. It's just like a movie. If the movie doesn't have a, you know, it doesn't catch you, it doesn't have a solid opener, it's just not going to grab you. So that's why I did Splash of Horror. I was like, man, you know, I love the splash pages. They have there's a certain connection that I have with them as a kid growing up. And I remember seeing the Eerie publication stuff. Of course, Warren Publications, Eerie and Creepy. You guys, a lot of you know this. You experienced the same thing. You'd go get an issue of Creepy or Eerie, and you got the great cover on there by Frank Frazetta or Richard Corbin. But then you open it up, and you got like 6 or 7 stories. And for me, I'm going through them. I'm going to read the ones with the eye-catching splash page first. That's really how it was for me as a kid. I think for a lot of kids, because, you know, it's like, look, it's got to catch your attention. If it's flat, it's just not going to do much for you, you know? So I tried to present some of the most dramatic, eye-catching splash pages I could find. And if they're not like, classic pre-code horror in that gruesome vein, they're at least incredibly intriguing because they're so well done. That is something. That was always something that like the Ogden Whitney Captain Crossbones. It's not direct horror per se. It is dark fantasy, but it's really cool because it's like just the dynamics of it, the layout, the design. I just love it, man. So let me get back. I digress, and I'm not getting back to you guys on here. Brian says, I agree about UPC symbols. Keep them on the back. Yeah. Keep them on the back or keep them on the backing board. Keep them on the backing board, folks. There it is. That's all I can take. Although I agree. Yeah, just put them on the back. That's it. Very cool Howling Horror splash page. It is. It's I'm not sure who this is. I mean, it is possible. It is possible that it's Robert Webb. I don't know. I'm really not quite sure because if you look at other parts of the story, it's kind of Robert Webb and it kind of isn't. And I think Brian, he's a Robert Webb fan. It's got Robert Webb elements, but then again, it doesn't. So it's possible that it is him. He did. I think Robert Webb may have done like 80% of all of the Superior Comics art for Iger Shop. I swear to God, the guy is just all over these comic books. It's hard to even believe the amount of work this guy did. It really is. He may have done this entire comic book, folks. I don't know. A lot of this does look like him. The thing about Robert Webb is that he was very inventive. He did things that other people simply weren't doing with comic books, with the medium, and one of those great things, of course, is that he loved doing circular or semicircle panels, and he would have objects hanging out of the panels that would go into other panels. Like, for instance, a woman's legs. She's like reclining on a chair, and her legs are going over the panel itself, like the circular panel, and into another panel below. Stuff like that. I'd never seen anything like that in my life. It was just like, wow, this is really something. So let me show you a couple of things. This is real quick. I brought these out because I don't know if I've shown you these. They're going to play into Volume 2. The thing about Splash of Horror, folks, is that Volume 2 is going to expand a little bit. And by expand, I mean that, yes, of course, it will have splash pages. That's still the main theme. But it will also have other things, other aspects about pre-code horror comics that I want to include and get into a little more as far as talking about them. Now, this is Chilling Tales of Horror, number 1, okay? And I want to say 1969. It's either 68 or 69. But this is Stanley Morse, okay? The cover is a Bernard Bailey cover from an issue of Weird Mysteries from the early 1950s. And the only thing that Morse did is he recolored it. He really didn't change it that much at all. It's pretty much intact, Bernard Bailey. And let me show you a couple of, it's just got some wickedly cool freaking. There's some hardcore stories. Stanley Morse did not mess around. And by that, I mean, he let the writers and the artists pretty much have free reign. He said, look, do whatever you want to do as long as it makes me money. That was that was the Stanley Morse theme. Okay, folks. And in a way, that's the greatest thing you could possibly do. Because if you're going to make horror stories, they've got to be horrifying, right? They got to be scary. They've got to be disturbing in some way, or, you know, something. I Killed Mary, this story, is one of those. It is pretty freaking disturbing, folks. It's going to be in the next splash of horror. That's what I'm telling you right now. And there's other ones. There are other ones. I don't want to show you too much. I mean, you've already seen this stuff. But so that's Chilling Tales of Horror number 1. And this is Chilling Tales of Horror number 2. Now, I recognize that once again. It's another great Bernard Bailey cover. One of the most insane Bernard Bailey covers I've ever seen in my life. And this is, originally it was from Weird Mysteries number 4, from Stanley Morse, of course. And you got the classic dagger through the skull, and then this ant creature that kind of looks like a Xanti misfit coming out of the skull's mouth. I mean, what the hell? It's Bernard Bailey, folks. Another one of my favorite pre-code artists. And of course, if you're not aware, Bernard Bailey co-created The Spectre, I believe with Jerry Siegel back in 1939. So there you go. That was another big claim to fame for Bernard Bailey. But Bailey is all over pre-code horror comics. As far as covers go, he may have done more covers than anybody. I don't know, but I know he definitely did dozens, perhaps over 50 covers himself. So that's a great one. And I love the way that they colored it. This is not the original color scheme, but it's pretty damn cool. I do like that a lot. Chilling Tales of Horror. Now, folks, these issues are not that expensive. I mean, it depends on, as you can see, this one's a little rough. See that corner? Oh, yes. And if you're looking for stuff like this, where it's maybe in like very good condition, you can find them for like 15 or 20 bucks. That's how much these will run you. If you want fine, or, you know, it's going to be 30, 40, 50 bucks. It's just, that's the way it goes. But this one's in pretty good shape. Let me show you a couple of things. I love this one. It's another splash page that just, God, man, it's going in the next volume of Splash of Horror, folks. Corpse in the Coffin. Check that out. The one great thing about looking at these in black and white, and the fact that Stanley Morse didn't screw with them, he had the original art from the original comic books, of course, because he produced them, he published them. He just simply reprinted them in black and white, and with incredible clarity. So that's the as far as I'm concerned, that's the advantage with doing Splash of Horror. I can go back to these issues of shock and chilling tales of horror and stark terror, for example, and get the reproductions that are already sharp as a tack. They're just amazing, and put them in Splash of Horror. That's the idea. And so what you end up getting in my groovy little comic book here, let me just find you a classic. Yeah, this is interesting. Okay, this is Stanley Morse. These two, The Gossips and Artist of Evil. Now, the Gossip splash page is interesting because, as you can see, it's not particularly gruesome. But the story, The Gossips, is one of the greatest pre-code horror stories I've ever read. If you ever get a chance, check it out. It deals with those, you can see at the bottom, those three old women that are all sisters, and they're horrible gossips. They gossip about everybody. And it is freaking awesome. So that's kind of a big reason why I put it in. I mean, I love that splash page because it's a woman on top of a bridge and she's about to jump in and kill herself. So there's a lot of mood in it. It's just got something that's, I don't know, that works very well. Something rather poignant about it. And then, of course, on the other hand, let me see here. Oops. Yeah, I'm really kind of screwing myself up here. Hold on. See, but now I can't really do that. All right. I'm just going to try to bring in Artist of Evil, which is another really groovy as hell splash page. And there are, well, it's 64 pages, folks. There's tons of them. And there's another thing. I just wanted, there's one other aspect about this. No, you're going to dig the hell out of this. I keep looking at it and I remember like stuff I put in it. Holy Toledo. Holy freaking Toledo. Like, okay, look, I'll show you. This is the last thing I'm going to show you. Okay, because I don't want to give away too much. Let me see here. Oh, there it is. All right. There's Voodoo Dolls. Now, I love the story. I love that splash page. It's really quite cool, right? I'll bring it back a little bit. Witch's Curse on the other side is also really groovy too. All right. So keep that in mind. So what I do is I also present some of these splash pages as they were published in color. And then Stanley Morse and his fantastic black and white reproductions in his magazines in the 1960s. Check out that freaking Voodoo Dolls. I mean, unknown artist, folks. Definitely, I mean, well, I'm not going to say definitely, but I want to say that it's Iger shop. Okay, there's no. I think Stanley. It's Stanley Morse. It's probably Iger shop. Nobody knows who the artist was. It's really great art. There's no doubt about that. Very highly stylized, and that is from Weird Mysteries number 11. Okay, from Stanley Morse. So what I do is I show you, like, Everett Raymond Kinsler. When I interviewed Kinsler in New York in 2018, 2019, I guess it was 2019. He said something that was really, I think, absolutely true. He was like, look, the problem I had with comic books was that I would do the line work, the line drawing, and that was fine. And if they reproduced the line drawing in black and white, it looked good. Once they added the color to it, it was like you're shifting gears and suddenly you've lost a gear. And you get like this muddy reproduction because, you guys know this. A lot of times, let me show you one thing. This is a direct example of that. Now, you may not be able to tell too much, but if you look at Miser in the Coffin, the title, you can see where the color, where it's not aligning with the actual title. So it's I don't know, they call it something, I forget now, but in any case, it doesn't line up with the art. So you get like this, you get the color, which is out of line with the actual art itself. And it tends to muddy up the art. That was Kinsler's point, and that's why Kinsler was doing a ton of those incredible black and white index covers, the inside page covers. You know what I'm talking about here? Let me show you. Kinsler is also in here, by the way, folks. One of his is in here, probably more for the next one. All right. So here we go. This is Erie Volume 1, Avon Books, and of course this is PS Art Books. So, Everett Raymond Kinsler let me find a good example here. I guess that's the best one. He would do the inside pages. Is that Kinsler? I don't know. Wally Wood did too. Oh boy, yeah. This is a Kinsler. It's not one of the greatest examples, but so he would do the frontispiece, the kind of like showing you the various stories inside the comic book, and they were always in black and white like this, so they always looked really great, and so he loved doing those because when he submitted the black and white drawings, the pen and ink drawings, he wasn't worried about them coloring it, putting colors on it and muddying it up and stuff. And so that was something that he liked to do for Avon. And he loved working for Avon. No doubt about that. So let me get back to the chat, folks. I know I kind of went off on a weird rant there. Okay, we got Michael Taylor, very cool, Howling Horror, splash page, yes. Brian says, appreciate that attention to detail in your reproduction work, Mike. Thank you, Brian. I try as much as possible. I am one guy, and that's what really kind of blows my mind. I think that you might agree. PS Art Books is several people, and there's several seasoned people that have been working in the business for years. And on some of the stuff they've done, it's kind of like there was nobody home. You know, the lights were on. Nobody was home. No, I got to say, like, I don't know. I don't know what happened. You know, and we of course, we're talking about a bit of that journey into fear, but with this, it's like, you know, pretty much all great. I don't have any complaints with Eerie, Volume 1. The weird mystery stuff is generally really good. And, of course, you know, we've talked about it before, the all of the Harvey stuff, the Harvey horrors stuff, I thought was exceptional, you know? But I don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say about PS art books. I just really don't. Weird. It's weird. Let's put it that way. This book looks like a must buy. Thank you, Brian. And thank you for purchasing it as well, my good man. I really appreciate that. I hope you enjoy it. See, I know your page quality will be as close to the original Golden Age page quality as much as possible. Yeah, you know, the pages in here, folks. I'll just show you this one again. They're not glossy. They have a slight sheen to them, as you can see, but they're not high gloss like those typical pages that you find in modern comic books. So for me, that's good. That's a plus. You know, I would rather see something flat, but this is good because the reproductions really come out well with this kind of paper, whatever this is. They say it. I read about it, of course, when I was reading about the way that they printed it, but I forget what it's called exactly. I don't know. It's got a name, but it's good. That's my point. Very cool swamp monster splash page. Yes, Basil Wolverton, the man. Kevin says the colors are amazing, Mike. Thank you, sir. Yeah, I tried to, you know, when you're looking at pages, and once again, when you're looking at a page like, where's that thing? Where'd I put it? Oopsie. Where are you now? Oh, there you are. Yeah, when you're looking at something like this, and it's faded, and the pages have tanned, you know, I look at it like, okay, well, at some point when somebody bought this, the pages were white and the colors were much more vibrant. So I just kind of imagine that and try to adjust that in my mind. You know, that's it. That's about as technical as it gets. It's just like, well, I wonder how it looked back in 1953. I don't know, but I'll check it out and see if I can, you know, get a close approximation to it. The face on that character reminds me a bit of the Hunchback. Yeah, the Jack Cole. Yes. I hate it when there's a UPC sticker over the printed UPC. Yeah, that does suck. Very cool bat in the brain. Gus Rica, folks. Gus Rica was an astounding Golden Age comic book artist, and some of the stuff he did in the pre-code era, that one in particular, I think that was Forbidden Worlds. I want to say Forbidden Worlds #2, perhaps. And also he did some stuff for Adventures into the Unknown, which I'm about to get to as well, folks. I got something to show you. Very interesting. I just want to give you a little peek at it because I'm doing a video about it this coming week. PBR says, recently watched Colossus the Forbidden Project. It's movies like this that are just way too cool to see. Yes. Yes, it's one of my favorites of the You know, that this science fiction 70s, folks, it was huge. My God, was it big. And you could actually say it started in the late 60s. You had 2001 A Space Odyssey. Of course, Colossus, the Forbin Project, 1970. Also, the Andromeda Strain. I believe that was the same year. Absolutely fantastic. A few years later, Westworld, Phase 4, The Demon Seed. Did you ever see that, based upon the Dean Koontz novel, which is fantastic? That's another great one on AI that really, as far as I'm concerned, it presents like that plausible idea. If you're talking about a computer that becomes sentient, well, there you go. It's the Demon Seed, which is not exactly the funny thing about that movie is that, well, I don't want to give anything away. It's on, I think it's still on Tubi, folks. I highly recommend it. You know, you guys may have noticed, it's like we see those films, they show up on Tubi. All of the ones I'm talking about, the Andromeda Strain, 2001 A Space Odyssey, Demon Seed, all of these great 1970s, Westworld, they all show up on Tubi, except Colossus, the Forbin Project. It has never been on Tubi. It's not even, and I did that video, and it's an absolute, I'm telling the truth in that video. It is no longer on any legitimate streaming platform. Sure, you can find it on, pirate platforms. They yanked it. It is freaking gone. So in the video, I'm telling people, look, if you want to, make sure that you can watch this movie in the future, find it on DVD or find it on Blu-ray, because they're trying to, I don't know what the hell the deal is with it. It's a popular film. It's not like they said, oh yeah, well, it's just not renting. I was going to rent it. I saved it on Vudu. That was the whole point of that video. I saved it on Vudu. It was in my saved list. 3 months later, I go back to rent it. It's gone. And I'm like, okay. I look at another venue. It's gone. I look at this other venue. It's gone. It's gone. It was simultaneously yanked from all the platforms. So that was the thing. I was like, why? Why would they yank this film? In 2018, Shout Factory did a special Blu-ray of it. So if you got Shout Factory doing a special Blu-ray of Colossus the Forbin Project, which is technically owned by Universal, there's a popularity. It is popular. People love that film. They probably love the books too. So why yank it from all the platforms so people can't rent it? Something going on with that, folks, and it is not on the level. That's what I'm talking about right now. There is a conspiracy. I don't know what kind of conspiracy, but it's pretty weird. That's all I got to say. Eric, hello to all the horror mythonauts this fine Friday evening, at least here in the USA. Very cool Monster Mill splash page. I love it's Myron Foss and freaking Erie Publications. Monster Mill, Hello, Eric. Good to see you, man. Once again, there is the link, folks. You can go off of my website, horroranthologymovies.com, for my new book, Splash of Horror. 64-page book. If you've just come in, let me shock you with an icy glare. No, I mean, let me shock you with the incredible cover to my new book, Splash of Horror, which is all about pre-code horror comic splash pages. Okay? And it's a dandy. And I'm already planning volume 2. I'm telling you, it's going to be out probably in May or June. And probably I'll do an October issue as well. So I think 3 volumes are going to come out of this. Maybe more. I don't know. We will see. We will see. But I'm excited. I like the way it turned out, especially for my first foray into comic book format stuff. It turned out beautifully. Beautifully. Jacob Bornowski is here with us tonight. Hello, Jacob. Good to see you. You're fine on my end. No freezing and lagging. Great. Good to hear. Good to hear. Well, this is not gay, but you're looking good here as well, Horror Mike. Why, thank you, Eric. My good man. Forward to great, Brian. Yes, we'll get you on the show, my good man. That would be quite good. Eric says, don't forget to hit that like button, my frightful friends and fiends. FST George is here. Horror Mike late to the show, but really looking forward to that book. I hope you just... Okay. Well, folks, then I know some people have come in late. And let me just take... Let me show a couple of things here. I'm going to go back just for a couple of things. All right. I don't want to go over all of the stuff again, but for example, folks, this is part of section 1, and this is the full color splash pages that I reproduced. As you can see, Death Prowls the Streets, and that is Jack Cole art. Then 10,000 Years Old, that is Ross Andrew from Weird Tales of the Future. So this is part of part 1, the first section. Then you go into the Stanley Morse section. Now this is black and white. I'm going to show this again. I just love this Lynn Streeter. Zombie's Eyes, for example. This is glorious black and white. But check out those reproductions, folks. You got Zombie's Eyes by Lynn Streeter, and then Captain Crossbones on the other side. That is from Ogden Whitney. So that's the second part. The third section is, of course, our beloved Myron Foss and Eerie Publications, right? It gives me a lot of joy, folks. It gives me a lot of joy. So these are reproductions from Eerie Publications. As you can see, Black Death, which is a fantastic pre-code story about giant man-eating ants on an island. I cannot recommend that enough. You got to find it. It's fantastic. And Monster Mill on the opposite side, Monster Mill, that is from Haunted Thrills. Now you can see that they glorified the art. For example, on her face, part of her face, her cheek is ripped off. That's not in the original comic book from the 1950s. They added that stuff. They added the blood, those little blood splatters and stuff, just to, as I call it, gorify it. They glorified it. That's all. But for the most part, they kept to the original art. Now, what Myron Foss would do as well with these stories later on is that he would have artists redraw them, okay, to make them look more like 1960s, 1970s characters instead of 1950s characters. So that's what would happen. But so it's 3 sections. And one of the things to keep in mind, I'm just going to do this one more time. For example, this is very crucial. Here you see Howling Horror on one side and Cadaver's Revenge. Now, take a good look at Howling Horror. I love it. It's one of my favorite splash pages in this entire book. It's just so beautiful. I don't know. There's something about it that is so weird. It's really cool. So you took a good look at it. This is the original. This is what I took the reproduction from. I've got a coverless copy of Mysteries Weird and Strange. So there it is. Now, as you can see, the page it's tanned, it's old, and it's also faded. The color's faded. So I just, thought in my head, like, well, let's make the colors more vibrant. Let's make the page cleaner, less tanned, and just clean it up, make it sharper, make it kind of bring it back to the way that it perhaps was originally when somebody bought this back in the 1950s. So that's what you get with Splash of Horror. But not only that, it doesn't stop there, folks. Oh, no, it does not. This is what I did. This right here is a normal size current comic book, right? It's what you get now with any comic book. I'm going to show you what I did. Okay. You can see Howling Horror there. I'm going to bring up the original. I know there's probably a better way to do this, but there we go. You will see, if you look at it, crap. Okay. Maybe that's good. There. Yeah, there we go. That the dimensions are basically the same. So what I did is I made sure that even though this is a modern size comic book, the dimensions of the actual splash pages are Golden Age size. Notice the margins on this Golden Age comic book. You see how, that's typical, standard. The margins. Notice my margins. Much thinner. That's because I pushed it to the limit, folks. I pushed it to the limit to make sure that these images approximated the original Golden Age size of these pre-code horror comics. So that's what you're going to get in Splash of Horror, right? You're not going to get reduced images to fit a current size comic book. You're going to get the original size, pushing the limits of the borders on a current size comic book to make it Golden Age size. That's what I did. And I'm damn proud of that fact. Okay. I was like, look, you can't, you could go to a printer. You could go to a place and say, yes, I need a Golden Age size comic book. Guess how much you're going to pay for that. Okay. Go with the standard, but then push the limits on the borders, and there's no issue whatsoever, folks. I mean, it's the great thing about it. I even have the info on the comics, each one at the bottom. As you can see, Howling Horror from Mysteries number 6, 1954, Superior Comics, art by Igershop. Could be Robert Webb. We don't really know. I wouldn't be surprised. Would not surprise me whatsoever. And it still remains. It fits. I don't know. It's one of those things. I took a chance This is the test printing. It came back beautifully. I've got 20 copies that are coming my way next week. They will be signed. If you buy a copy from me, I will sign it and send it to you. And those will start shipping out next Friday, the 26th. I should be getting the copies, I would say probably Wednesday, I think. You know, those first 20 copies. So that's what's going on. And once again, I think I'm dropping the link in the chat, folks, one more time. Right there. So if you go to horroranthologymovies.com, it's also on the top there. It's a page. It's called Splash of Horror Pre-Code Horror Comics Book. Splash page. Yes, that's what it's called. It's a long title, but it's there. On horroranthologymovies.com. You're going to dig it. You are going to dig it. I'm already planning volume 2, which I said is probably going to be out May, June. I've got something else that I'm doing too. I'm not going to say anything about it right now. It's going to come out before that. It's probably going to come out the end of March. It's another that revolves around pre-code horror comics, folks, and it's something that I've never seen before in pre-code horror comics, and I think that a lot of people are going to dig the hell out of it. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. I've been working on it for a while. This one I just finished, so I've been kind of working more on this particular book, and I think it's going to be a hoot as well. But that's end of March, possibly like mid-April, somewhere in there. It's a bit of a ways. There's a lot of stuff going. It's going to be a little bigger as well. Oh, there we go. Yeah, FST George. Okay. If you can do it, support Horror Mike where you can. He has a Blu-ray available called First Man on Mars. Good old First Man on Mars. Yes, it is still on sale, folks, until January 2nd for $8.45. That is a Blu-ray that is signed and numbered. Contains physical extras from me and also a chance to win one of 2 movie props from the film. So if you like sci-fi horror films, especially 1970s, 1980s style grindhouse type sci-fi horror stuff, I think you're going to dig the heck out of First Man on Mars. Thank you for that, Eric. I really appreciate that, man. Michael Taylor says those facsimiles are putting the UPC codes on the back. Yeah, that's way better. So much better. Steve says, often the art made the stories were the best thing about the stories, and in a visual medium, that's the formula. Yeah. Daninsky is here. Hello, Daninsky. Good to see you, man. The original Ant-Man. Yeah, the original Ant-Man. The original misfit of Xanthi. And of course, it goes without saying, folks. I'm just going to say it right now. This Bernard Bailey cover for Weird Mysteries came out years before the Misfits of Xanthi. Okay. I'm just going to say that right now. I'm going to leave it right there. Okay. I'm not saying anything. I'm not really saying anything. Or am I? That's the thing. All right. BBR says, picked up Michael Golden's Micronauts Artist Edition the other day. If you can find an edition, it's well worth the price. Wow. Man, they are just coming out with those left and right. That is absolutely amazing. Steve says, I still have my Micronauts. Jacob, I love these books. Love these books. The Artist Edition, Jacob. So yes, you're saying? Oh, thanks, Steve Harrison. I always wanted those. Could not find them where I lived when I was a kid. I could not afford them. Even if I did, definitely cannot afford them now. Still, what fun toys. The Micronauts toys, right? Daninsky says, beautiful reproductions. Mike, thank you, Daninsky. I did what I could. Let's put it that way. My own little shop of horrors right here. I did what I could, folks. And I think it turned out freaking great. The uncolored pages are wonderful. Yes, I love those black and whites. Love that face on the ant. Not just that it's green, the look of the face. Yes. It is Bernard Bailey, you guys. It's freaking awesome. Oh, yeah, the Micronauts. Yep. Figures I got rid of. Eigershot means they were production line style. Everyone chipped in where needed. Yeah, they were kind of like a factory, Steve Harrison. And some people would, do entire things themselves. I think Robert Webb did a ton of stuff himself. However, sometimes what they would do with the story is they would have, let's say they had Matt Baker in there, Jay Disbrow, Robert Webb, a few other people. Maybe somebody would do the characters, somebody would do the backgrounds, then somebody would ink it, etc. And it was just like a right down the line factory style. Brian says, yes, the most recent PS Art books have really dropped the ball. I went back and compared them to the early releases, Harvey Horrors and the Beyond. Those books are all phenomenal. Yes, agreed. I love the Harvey Horror stuff. I was so damn excited when those things came out. And I still, to this day, of course, I've got 13 volumes or something of those Harvey Horrors. They are freaking great. Sad case of a once great company that let their success go to their heads and got lazy. Very sad. They were the best for a few years there. Yes. Yep. That is true. They call that page satin. There you go. Not glossy, not flat. Exactly. It's just kind of right in the middle there. Thank you, Steve. Mike does it out of love. They do it as work. It shows. Yeah, they did it out of love though for a while. If you go back to their stuff with as Brian was just saying, Harvey Horrors and so forth. Man, that stuff was like spotless. It was perfect. You retro colored them with sheer imagination and comic smarts. Demon Seed scared the F out of me when I was a kid. Yeah, it did. I hope Tubi gets Westworld one of these days. Michael Taylor, I know they had Westworld years ago, like I'm talking 2-3 years ago. Then they got Future World and they pulled Westworld and they never brought Westworld back. It was really weird. They had Future World on there for like 2 years. And that's like the worst one. It's not even that good. Westworld is fantastic. That film with Yul Brynner, if you guys have not seen that film, it's like Yul Brynner, Richard Benjamin, and who is it? Brolin? There's 3 guys, 3 main stars. They're all great. Jacob says, great show going tonight. This is my favorite kind of content. Good. I'm glad you're digging it. Werewolf by Lunchtime is here. Hello, Werewolf. Good to see you. How is the stock market, folks? Werewolf is 12 hours ahead of us in Australia. And so we often ask him for stock tips and the like. You know what I'm saying? Or if anything else has happened that we're not aware of, being 12 hours behind him. He is our time-traveling agent from down under. Werewolf by Lunchtime, folks. There's the old hairy one. Howdy, Werewolf by Lunchtime. FST George loved that cover, went ahead and ordered it so I don't miss out. Thank you, FST George. Thank you. My good man. Well, now that you just said that, I'm going to bring it out again because I agree with you. I concur, my good man. I love this freaking cover. Now, the cover is 3 different splash pages, of course, 3 different artists. And I've shown them to you. So you got the skull, which is Iger Shop, right? You got the woman here who's being menaced by an alien creature, and there's the guy behind her, and that is Ross Andrew. Yes, Ross Spider-Man Andrew, but years before he did Spider-Man. And of course, you have the fantastic Jack Cole, and that is from Hangman's Horror. And it just turned out, I think, beautifully. It's like really a hell of a combo of 3 different splash pages. I wanted to do something like that, but just, I don't know, to make it dynamic, I guess, without overcrowding it, but just make it eye-catching, that type of thing, with 3 of my favorite artists of the pre-code. I've got it. There's a ton of them, but those 3, Iger Shop, just all around fantastic. Of course, Jack Cole, God, these guys, there were so many great ones, they're freaking fantastic. Thank you again, FST George. That is fantastic. I know you will enjoy it, my good man. Ari KJ is here. Hello, Ari KJ. How are you doing? Good. I don't know if you've been on before. If you have, I apologize. But good to see you on the show. I got to say, Mike, you really have an authentic, exquisite, good taste for classic horror and know how to execute it well. Well done, Mike. Stuff like this is cool to share to friends. Oh, it's Eric Carrillo. Jeez Louise. Folks, Eric Carrillo. Good Lord, man. Where are you? Are you back in the States? Folks, Eric was in my film Witch Tales. He plays one of the chefs in the sequence. Check this out. You're going to dig the hell out of this. Eric plays one of the chefs in the sequence Bon Appetit, which was originally the pre-code comic book story Chef's Delight. Okay, that is in the book 4-Color Fear, okay, which is fantastic. One of the greatest reference books ever on pre-code horror, with fantastic reproductions. And that story is in there. It's so damn good. They put it in that book. And he is one of the chefs plays in the film, and he does an awesome job. Great to see, Eric. That is fantastic, my good man. Thank you, Eric. Werewolf, good morning. You're not actually far off Werewolf by lunchtime. Wow, look at that art. Well, it's got to be one of those things that I was showing. I've shown a lot tonight, folks, but not too much from the book. I just wanted to wet your whistle, get you kind of perked up for the book. Giant man-eating ants. Sounds like where I live. Yes. Oh, yes, the Aussies have some of those dangerous insects on the face of the earth, and arachnids, folks. Arachnids that will bite through your leather boot. I've seen footage of it. That is frightening right there. Easy Comic Reader is here. Hello, Easy Comic Reader. Great to see you, my good man. Jacob, damn good job on these horror, Mike. Great selection from what I've seen. Thank you, Jacob. I tried to, definitely present a wide variety. As a matter of fact, there's a Jack Kirby pre-code splash page in this. It's from a story that was made into a film by Charles Band and Full Moon Entertainment. I'm just going to leave it at that, folks. But it's a good one. It's a good movie too. I think it's one of Charles Band's greatest films, actually, from Full Moon Entertainment. Gotham City Comics looks good. I need to get some for the shop. Gotham City, by all means, my good man. I don't know if you saw that. I commented on that when you had made the comment on the video and in the YouTube video. But I would love to get some issues in the shop. How do you typically do that? Is it like a consignment thing, or do you buy issues, like, obviously at a discounted rate because you're buying multiple issues? Whatever, however it works, I would love to have some of Splash of Horror, my good man, in your store. That would be absolutely fantastic. If anybody else knows of any stores too that might carry, indie comic books. This is unusual because it's kind of like an indie comic book, but it's an art book and a reference book. So it's a little bit different, but I think it would sell. I think this would catch the attention, and people would dig the hell out of it. I know a lot of people love pre-code horror comics, folks. I've seen people in their, at least as young as in their 30s, that dig the hell out of pre-code horror comics that were just freaking born like, late 1990s, for Christ's sake. And there's a good reason for that. Great art and interesting stories and really good horror never goes out of style. We see this proven once and again, like with the Universal Monsters, with the original Frankenstein, Dracula, Creature from the Black Lagoon, things like that, where it's just, they always will be great because they're timeless. They're timeless. And a lot of this stuff is simply timeless in Splash of Horror. You look at it, there's an iconic feel to it. It rings of true horror. It's not BS. They're going for something. And these people, obviously, look, the artists in here, were born in their 1910s or in the 1920s. Maybe 1930s at the latest. And all of these guys were completely influenced by pre-code movies. They were influenced by the first Universal monster movies in the 1920s and 1930s when the sound, came along. They were influenced by movies like Freaks, Todd Browning's Freaks, by Island of Lost Souls, Earl Kenton. Island of Lost Souls, the fantastic adaptation of H.G. Wells' book, Island of Dr. Moreau. And so they had a lot of classic influences. Of course, they were influenced by Poe, certainly by Weird Tales. I'm just about to get to that. It's exciting, folks. You'll want to stick around for this. It's really quite cool. Okay. The connection between Weird Tales Pulp magazine, which began in 1923, and of course pre-code horror comics, there's a huge connection there. We're about to take a look at that for a second. I've spoken of this when I did the Weird Tales shows like a month ago. We were talking about this a lot. The comic books, from Weird Tales, the pulp magazine, to the horror comic books of the 50s through the 1970s, with Marvel doing their really cool adaptations in their horror books, like Journey into Mystery in the early 1970s, Chamber of Chills, stuff like that. So there's been a huge connection with Weird Tales. And I can tell you, there's no doubt about it, a lot of these artists and the writers that wrote stuff in the pre-code were big Weird Tales fans. There is no doubt, man. When you read some of these stories, I'm not saying that they ripped them off, or, you know, maybe they did, or maybe they took direct inspiration from some stories. I never really spotted that. Like going, oh, well, this is a rip off of this story from Weird Tales issue number whatever. I never saw that. But things like, you know, an homage here and there to something, yes, definitely. And one of the things, an exciting thing, I finally found this. I mean, it took, I was thinking about getting the first volume from PS Art Books, but they're not cheap, folks. They are not cheap at all. Let me show you this. But before I do, once again, Gotham City. Yeah, look, I tell you what, I'm going to, let me do this too. Just so I don't forget. I put on my glasses, guys. I'm losing my sight. Okay, Gotham City. This is, let's see. What was it again? Oh, yeah. What was I talking about again? Yeah. Let me scroll down there. Jesus Christ. There we go. Gotham City, that's my Gmail. Probably the best to use to get a hold of me about getting copies of Splash of Horror for your store. Because, for example, I found this. I don't know if you guys have had this problem. Okay, so I have my website, horroranthologymovies.com, and I have my email. The official email is admin@horroranthologymovies.com. I've been using it for years. I don't know what happened with Gmail, but so like a few months ago, I get a Gmail email from somebody and I respond to them, and they send it back to me undeliverable, and it says Gmail does not recognize your email. This could be spam email or some BS like that. And it turns out, I guess they've changed things, because I used to be able to send stuff to Gmail accounts, never got it returned to sender. But now you've got to authenticate any email. Apparently, if it's not a Gmail email, you got to authenticate it through Gmail, through, Google. So I got to do that, I guess. In any case, at least I have this Gmail address, which is horroranthologymovies@gmail.com. So that's the best place to get a hold of me, and just let me know how you like to do it. If you like to do it consignment, I send you copies and then you send me money based upon sales, or you just buy X amount of issues, whatever. I'm up for any of that, my good man. Let's see where we're at here. Boy, there's so many here, folks. I'm trying to figure out where the hell I was. No, I can't. I was trying to say that splash page looks like Vampira. Okay. Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. You're talking about this, right? It does, kind of, doesn't it? Isn't that a beautiful splash page? Look at the art. It's just, there's something about it. The dogs, that weird skeleton creature, and the woman. and she's kind of distorted. There's a certain distortion about her that I find really appealing. I don't know. It's fantastic. So, needless to say, it's in Splash of Horror. You know, it's in here, folks, and I think it looks better because it's not faded and stuff. Easy Comic Reader says, just purchased Horror Mike. Looks awesome. Thank you, Easy Comic Reader. Yes. Thank you, guys, for buying the book. This is fantastic. Can't wait to see Brian Baugh back on your show. Huge fan of his work. Yes, FST George, I am as well. I think there's a ton of people on here that love the Wolf and Batsy, man. You know, and there's new stuff, folks. There's new Wolf and Batsy coming down the pike. That's what's going on. Oh, and it's going to get better and better. I can tell you from what I've heard. I've heard a few things, and it sounds pretty damn exciting. That's it. Steve Harrison, James Brolin. So you had Richard Benjamin, James Brolin, Yul Brynner as the three leads, and they're all great. Westworld is a stunning work of science fiction. Once again, it's Michael Crichton. Folks, Michael Crichton. Okay, this guy was like a genius. You're talking about Westworld, the Andromeda Strain, of course, Jurassic Park, Prey, which is about nanotechnology, which is really scary as hell. If you get a chance, read that novel by Michael Crichton, Prey. Whew. And that's like Prey. Really scary stuff. Future World was an insult. It was an insult. James Brolin, Thanos' dad. Kane's dad, yeah. I just buy them up front. Okay. All right, Gotham City. Well, if you buy multiples, I give, obviously, needless to say, I give you a deal on multiples. So if you would be so kind, just hit me up at this email, horroranthologymovies@gmail.com. Okay, great. Email sent. Thank you, Gotham. I appreciate that, my good man. And thanks once again. When you get the copies, if you could take a photo of them in your store, I would love it. I would put it up on my freaking website, man. That would be so great. And then, of course, I would have to do a Gotham City Comics show. There is no doubt about that. I'm kind of thinking with these books coming out, folks. Now, I know some of you guys, it's hard to say this summer. I would say, yeah, it would be like, it's probably would be like this summer or next fall, early fall, like September, October. I might be doing wanting to do a comic book convention go to a convention with the books, get a dealer's table, something like that. Hang out, maybe do a couple of presentations on pre-code horror, maybe show my film Haunted Thrills. I would totally be absolutely up for that. It would be fantastic. Maybe it would be a location where some of us could actually get together and hang out. That's my final thing here, folks, like what I'm really getting at. Like a location where, I don't know, where like a lot of us could, where it's not that far, like for instance, Texas. Now, I'm in Florida. Texas, like for instance, Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin. That's not that far. I just got to traverse Alabama and whatever the hell, Louisiana. I think Mississippi. But it's not that far. It's not like traveling across the freaking it is the east side of Texas. There's a ton of comic cons going on there. And I know a lot of you guys are like in Texas or you're around Texas. You know what I'm saying? Like there's Arizona, you got New Mexico, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Kansas, all just kind of like where Texas is like almost like a center point. North Texas is kind of like a center point. If you get my drift on that, where I don't know, maybe some of us could meet up and then we could do a live show, a live horror mic show from a convention. Think about that. That's kind of horrifying. It's great. It would be freaking awesome. Everyone have a great Friday or Saturday. Alas, I have to dip out. Take care. Eric, thank you, my good man. Have a great weekend. And hopefully we'll see you Sunday. Now, folks, I've got a Sunday show. This Sunday, we are joined by Apex Comics. He will be talking about his new ash can of two of his characters, the Creep and Fembat. So I think you want to catch this. It's definitely indie comics. I love the Creep. I'm a big fan. And so he's put out this ash can of Fembat and the Creep. And we're going to be talking about that and other stuff on Sunday, the Sunday Nooner. That is 12 p.m. Eastern Time. So that is the Horror Mike Sunday Nooner this Sunday. I'll bring that up at the end of the show again. But it should be a hoot. Universal became popular in the 1960s as TV brought the Universal picks to the little screen. Horror hosts made sure that they never went away. Horror had roots in Second World War. Its atrocities, Ed Gein, Weird Worlds type pulps, and tales of shrunken heads. Oh yes, the shrunken heads. James Brolin is just so cool. Last week saw him in The Car. Yes. Yeah, The Car is really quite good. And I think you mentioned this a few shows ago, PBR, and I've got to see the movie now again. You mentioned, I was like, yeah, that was a good movie. And I have not seen it for years, for a few years anyways. I got to watch it again. Of course, my horror comment is based on reflections of the times of horror. Lots of horror was nuclear. Yeah, of course. Nuclear giant creatures spawned from nuclear radiation. And, the Japanese really kicked that off officially. And they knew something about it. Mike, do you want me to give you a starting line? A starting line? I'm not quite sure, Michael Taylor, what you're talking about there. I'm in Texas. Come on down, baby. There you go. Easy Comic Reader is in Texas. Well, there you go. And so, okay, here's something, Easy Comic Reader. If you get a chance, you probably gone to conventions, comic book conventions, or just like comic book shows that aren't, either of them are fine with me as long as they're not too damn big. But you're familiar with them. Could you mention some or send me a list or something of possible conventions that would take place late summer, early fall? I'm talking like September, October in particular. I think that would probably be maybe June. I think July and August is right out. It's just, I don't know about you. It's just bloody hot as hell. And I think there's less conventions anyways in July and August, but maybe June or September, October. And of course, in September and October, you get, of course, all of the kind of Halloween related Comic Cons as well, which could be really groovy. So I'm into it, man. Easy Comic Reader. That sounds like a good one. I could definitely get to Texas. And I know other people could get there as well. Michael Taylor Jackson does that on 4-color fossils after Graphic Man is finished reading the comics. Jackson puts a starting line down so Graphic Man will know where. Oh, a starting line. Gotcha. I'm going to bow out, my friends. Great show. Thank you, Gary. Great to see you, man. Take care. I can do that every Friday, Mike. Okay. Not quite sure. I'm not quite sure. Starting line. Okay, what? We're going to have to get to that later, Michael. I just got too much stuff going. Brian, good night, everybody. Great conversation. Going to have some pizza and watch my new Tombs of the Blind Dead Blu-ray. Excellent, man. Brian, great to see you. Glad to see you on the Horror Mike show. Can't wait to get you back on the show, my good man. And thanks for buying the book. I greatly appreciate it, my friend. I will be talking to you on Twitter, or what the new kids are calling X recently. But take care, man. PBR's in Dallas. There you go. Okay, PBR. You also probably have a good idea as to stuff that's happening in and around that area. You know, Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin. Yeah, you know, I've been there. I've done some conventions up that way in Dallas. I'm talking in the 90s. Okay, in the 90s, folks, like 30 years ago. But I did, and they were great too. They were really quite cool. We went to Deep Ellum. I remember that. Like, we hung out there. We didn't know what the hell to do. We just went to Deep Ellum and kind of walked around, and had a few drinks. I don't know how it is now, but that's where we went. Will do, Mike. I'm near South Padre Island. My brother is closer to Dallas, and he goes to horror cons all the time. I'll ask him. Fantastic. That would be absolutely great, Easy Comic Reader, because I think the thing to do would be to be able to, maybe I could submit my film, Haunted Thrills, and then so I would be officially in it, right? Which would mean that I would get in free, which being, a no budget bastard like me, that's a plus right off the bat. And then maybe I could get a table or split a table with somebody, another vendor, to sell my books there and my movies. That would be freaking awesome, man. And we'd have a blast too. I'm telling you right now, I guarantee you. Texas isn't that far from me in Denver. No, it is not. Kevin, we could meet. We could meet in Texas. That would be freaking awesome, and hang out at a convention. Oh my God, that is great. It's one of the things too, like, there's some pros and cons about having a dealer's table. Now, sometimes the cons have to do with the fact that you're stuck at the dealer's table. But the pros can be that if you're at the dealer's table, then you get to hang out with people and you can just talk all day, and it's totally cool. So that's another big thing. But that's something I'm thinking about it heavily. I think that would be quite good. Bill Cox is here. Hello, Bill. Hello from Victoria, British Columbia. Yes, Victoria. I love Victoria. Bill, I used to live right up there. I lived in Birch Bay, Washington, literally on the border. It's about 35 miles from Vancouver. And of course, you could just catch the ferry, go on over to Victoria. And that was freaking awesome, go up and down Vancouver Island, Nanaimo, all over the place. Loved it. Really beautiful area. Beautiful area. Wow, we're done. I've gotten through all the stuff. Woohoo! Yes. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed the 3 hours of comments that I've just read. Now, I swear to God, friends, it's almost 10 o'clock. It's almost been 2 hours. But it's been fantastic. We haven't even hit Tubi yet, right? Here's a little sneak peek of something. I'm not going to show you much, but it's something that I just got. I got it cheap. And I had to get this, but I had to, find a cheap issue. Adventures into the Unknown #1. Now, this is a reprint, okay? And this is the first issue that came out in 1948. It is considered the very first continuing series pre-code horror comic book ever published. Before EC Comics, before Atlas, it was Adventures into the Unknown. Great cover by Edvard Moritz, who's an excellent artist. He's also on the interior. Check out the contents page. Look, talk about class, folks. Look at that stylish contents page. That is so cool looking. But here's what I'm talking about. I'm not going to give away much. I'm just going to show you. The Werewolf Stalks. Right there. The first story. Right? It's really cool. Amongst 5 other stories in this particular issue that all happen to be written by Frank Belknap Long. Frank Belknap Long, my good friends, was a huge writer for Weird Tales Pulp magazine, especially in the late 20s, the 1930s, and I believe even into the 1940s. He was also one of H.P. Lovecraft's greatest friends. Frank Belknap Long wrote a biography, which I have. It's called A Dreamer on the Night Side, about H.P. Lovecraft. And it's like him hanging out with Lovecraft in New York. It's pretty damned entertaining. It's a really good book, highly recommended. But so Frank Belknap Long ended up working for ACG, American Comics Group, writing stories for Adventures into the Unknown for their, more or less for their first 10 comics issues of Adventures into the Unknown. So he's got 5 in here, 5 stories by Long. And then he's got a smattering of stories throughout the next 9 issues. And I think then that was pretty much it, But there is the direct Weird Tales connection with pre-code horror comics. And that is Frank Belknap Long, folks. And the last thing he does, the other thing I will show you, The Castle of Otranto. It is a classic ghost story. Adapted by Long, but it was written in 1768 by Horace Walpole. So it's getting way back. It's way before Frankenstein, folks. Okay. And as a matter of fact, that's before Edgar Allan Poe. It's The Castle of Otranto. And so it was adapted by Frank Belknap Long. And it is in the first issue of Adventures into the Unknown. So I'm going to be doing a review on this book next week. It'll be a video. You'll want to check it out. It's one of those things where, by this time, Frank Belknap Long was a seasoned writer. The guy had been writing for years. He knew his stuff. Very interesting to see him transition from pulp magazine to comic books. But he's all over this issue. So it's really cool. It is really freaking cool, folks. I'm so glad I got this. I found this for $8. I found this issue for $8. It's just a reprint, but it's pretty good. It's a pretty decent reprint. Yeah. There we go. God. So, folks, let's take a look here. Very cool werewolf stock splash page. Yes, and it's a cool story too, Michael Taylor. Really cool. If you want, you can also read this online. You guys know the Comic Museum? The Comic Museum, I believe, has this entire issue. You can read it online if you look it up. It's Adventures into the Unknown #1 on the Comic Museum. Easy Comic Reader, May 17th, 19th. That may be too soon. Easy Comic Reader, because here's what I wanted to do. I wanted to get this next. There's another book that I want to put out, and I'm thinking that it's going to be out in April, right? So that's right on the heels there. If there's anything, Easy Comic Reader, let me put it this way. Think about any events that would be happening in September or October. Let's be more realistic, because by that time, I'll definitely at least have 2 books out. I may have another documentary out, and I'll definitely, regardless, I'll have the Haunted Thrills documentary. I can submit to a given convention and see if they'll show it. But let's think in terms of September, October. I think May is just too soon, Although I know Texas Frightmare Weekend, that's a huge show, though. That's like, don't they get like 100,000 people or some shit? I heard it was like 100,000. My good man. Very cool Castle of Otranto splash page. Yes, I love it. All right, guys. Here we go. We're talking. We're going. Without further ado, my good friends, my good fiends. Let me get on over to the queue. Oh, this is wild. This is totally wild, folks. I cannot believe this. Here's Tubi, because it is Tubi time. All right. There we go. And what an astonishing lineup. Tubi, the stuff that they've added, my friends, my fiends. I don't even know what to say. The obscurity of some of these movies is beyond belief. Now, I know that they're getting them, like they'll buy a package from a certain distributor, right? They'll get like a package of 20 movies, and they're all like sleazy exploitation films from the 1960s and 1970s and 80s. Well, the thing about Tubi is they'll put them all up. They don't care, they're freaking awesome. Tubi is the way, I'll tell you. Easy Comic Reader says 10-4, we'll check. Great. Thank you, Easy Comic Reader. That's fantastic. PBR as well. If you're in that area, by all means, get back to me if there's something that, a convention or a comic book show. It doesn't even have to be a convention. it could be just a good sized comic book show where they have like a big dealer's room, and then maybe they've got like a hall where people talk. They might talk about stuff comic related. They might show some movies, but it's not like a full blown convention where they have like cosplay and all that stuff. You guys know what I'm saying. Although I'm not against that stuff. It's just, I do like a good comic book show as well. It's been a while since I've been to a comic book show. I'll tell you. One that's just geared as a show, Okay. Here we go. Now, folks, the first film that you're looking at there on the right, Video Violence. I've seen it. Okay. It's from 1987. It was shot on video, and it's kind of like how would I say? It's like a snuff movie within a movie. It's kind of queasy. It's not very well done, but I'm not quite sure what to tell you about it. You might find it vaguely entertaining. I'm not going to give away anything, but the ending is a little bit unusual, and that does give it a plus. I will say that. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like a torture porn type of film, really. Video violence. It's just that the torture porn is it's not very well done. So it's, they're not really fooling anybody per se, but it's still pretty gruesome. I think that's really what I'm getting at. And yeah, it's on Tubi. You might want to check it out. Give it like 20 minutes. See what you think. On the other hand, Pets, 1973, folks. That's what I'm talking about. Pets, of course, rated R. A naive young runaway is kidnapped and held hostage by a wealthy art collector who has a menagerie of young women locked up in his basement. Yep, you heard that all right, correctly, folks. Pets from 1973. And guess what? Yep, I've got a short trailer for it, and we're going to take a look at that right now.
Of pets. There is an animal in every woman, rare and dangerous species.
See that road to the right? Take it.
That's not the way to...
road, I said.
Wild, untamed.
All right, smart.
Bonnie. Candace Ryelson as Bonnie. Sensuous, sexual, cruel. Joan Blackman as Geraldine. A woman filled with strange desires.
Well, all females want to be played with.
Vincent. Ed Bishop.
All my pets, they love me, But I must punish them when they deserve it.
Pets. Fondle them. Pets. Play with them. Love them.
Don't leave me.
On your knees.
Break them.
Crawl!
But watch out. Pets. They bite. Pets rated R.
Yeah, I think that Pets is further proof that everything kind of exploded in the late 60s, early 70s. As far as like real exploitation films went, that's when it really went down. Like where people were like, the hell with it, we're going to go nuts. And so you started seeing films like this, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Exorcist even. Now that's on a bigger scale, but still like balls to the wall, shocking. Things that you would never have thought of, that would be in the theater. Pets, folks, 1973. So it's on Tubi. It's on freaking Tubi. God, it's hilarious. That is hilarious. And not to, check these titles out. 1997. Now, this is the 90s, but still. Blood Sisters of Lesbian Sin? I mean, what? What? You just have to say to yourself, what? Check it out. 3 bewitching demon sisters crave the body and soul of Johnny Blake, a man who has dedicated his life to defeating evil. Resisting won't be easy. Okay. Well, when it's the Blood Sisters of Lesbian Sin, I guess. What does that even freaking mean? I don't know, but it's a 1997 horror film, and it's on Tubi, folks. And now we're going to go back to the early 70s with The Shiver of the Vampires. Yes, I think this is Jean Rollin, French filmmaker who loves the vampires and the naked women. Shiver of the Vampires, folks, 1971. At turns erotic, violent, and mystical, this film follows newlyweds who travel to an ancient chateau in France only to find it inhabited by vampires that are usually hot-looking women and they're naked. Oh, I just added that, but, that's pretty much what's going on. Jean Rollin, folks. And Shiver of the Vampires, it's on Tubi for your viewing pleasure now. Okay? Once again, that's tubitv.com, folks. That's tubitv.com. I'm going to drop that link into the chat right now. So you guys can chat. It's tubitv.com, folks. In case you weren't aware after all this time. Let me go back. Easy Common Reader says September 6th to 8th. Oh, Days of the Dead, huh? Days of the Dead. Houston 2024. That's something, Easy Comic Reader. I've been to a few Days of the Dead. I've had a few film show at Days of the Dead, for example, in Charlotte, North Carolina. And another venue, I forget where the hell. Oh, it was Atlanta Days of the Dead. And I have not done the Houston one. That could be good. That's something to consider. Thank you for that. If any others pop up, okay. So Days of the Dead is more a film-oriented convention. If you can think of any comic book-oriented stuff like Comic Con or comic book show-oriented stuff that happened in September, October, let me know. Yeah, because that could. I'm kind of thinking in terms. I'll have a couple of books that are comic book-oriented, So, and then of course I could show my film about comic books, Haunted Thrills. So that might be, I don't know. It might be something to consider as well. I know they do. There are some comic book vendors at Days of the Dead, but I don't know. It's a good one, though. That is a good start. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Those are the kinds of pets I want to adopt, says Michael Taylor. Yes. I don't know how good Shiver of the Vampires are, but I like the cover. Yes, I do. The cover is quite nice. I agree, Michael Taylor. Thank you, Easy Comic Reader. Excellent. Thank you, sir. Okay, let's get back here, folks. I mean, they've got some stuff that's just like, what? Most of the stuff is pretty much brand new on Tubi, folks. Venus in Furs, 1970. We're predominantly staying kind of in the 70s at this point. Check this out. A trumpeter is sucked into a psychosexual horror along with his sultry girlfriend and the mysterious beauty who may lead them all straight to hell. Yes, that's it. And it's, of course, directed by Jess Franco. None other than Jess Franco, folks. Klaus Kinski is also in this film, as well as James Darren, believe it or not. I have not seen it, at least that I remember anyways, but it's on Tubi. I'm definitely going to give it a look anyways. Venus in Furs. Alyssa Milano. You heard that right, folks. Alyssa Milano. Embrace of the Vampire, 1995. An innocent young woman must choose between her boyfriend and a mysterious, handsome vampire who tries to seduce her in her dreams. Yeah, I've had a few girlfriends like that. In any case, that's Embrace of the Vampire. When we get back to the 70s with Thirst. Thirst. Woohoo! Da, 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 da. God, that's a really familiar sound. It's Thirst, folks. A young woman is kidnapped by an international blood-drinking cartel known as the Brotherhood, who want her to join their ranks. I'm watching this film, folks. David Hemmings and Henry Silva are in this freaking movie. It's got to be interesting. Okay, it's 1979. Thirst. That's high on my list on Tubi. That's coming up in the next few days for me. Sounds weird. An international blood drinking cartel known as the Brotherhood. Strange stuff, man. And then, if that wasn't odd enough, here's Cries of Ecstasy, Blows of Death from 1973. It's only 50 minutes long, folks. From Something Weird Video. In the year 2062, post-apocalypse humanity struggles to survive on a barren and polluted planet populated by roving bands of violent biker gangs. Yes, yes. There you go. I have not seen it. But, I mean, Cries of Ecstasy, Blows of Death, 1973 sci-fi drama. I got to check out at least a bit of it. I mean, Tubi is just knocking it out of the park, folks. That's all there is to it. Now, this one I've seen. The Curious Female. It's also sci-fi.
I'd sure like to pick you the litter.
It's a wacky flick, folks. It's wacky. The Curious Female, 1970. It's, well, late 70s, mid 70s, maybe 75. It doesn't say. It's the way out world of 2177 AD. Love, romance, families, and all that medieval jazz are not obsolete, but forbidden by the big MC. Yes, but there's one groovy girl in this vacuum culture who won't accept the status quo, baby. And guess who's in it? Yeah, you're reading that right. It's Angelique Pettyjohn, folks. Just a few years out of Star Trek and Amok Time. Remember that? And she's the big blonde hair with the big, and you know, that whole thing. Alien bikini action. Angelique Pettyjohn. Oh, yes. It's The Curious Female. As I said, I've seen this film. It's off and on funny. Sometimes it's kind of tedious, but there's a lot of flesh in it. Let's put it that way. It's seriously R-rated, folks. Just like a lot of the 1970s films are, no doubt. This one I just put on for the title. The Haunting of Muffin Baker. Yes, nothing like haunting a baker's muffin. Haunting Muffin Baker. 2006. And you know who this is from? It's Full Moon Entertainment, folks. Yeah, Charles Band. And it's thoroughly R-rated. I've seen most of it. Key phrase, seen most of it. Okay. A B-movie starlet and her boyfriend arrive at her dead uncle's haunted mansion for the will reading and find relatives plotting for her inheritance. Yes, there you go. And there's a lot of nudity. There's a ton of TNA in this film. The Haunting of Muffin Baker. Right there. This one I love. 1996, folks. I love this film. I love it to death. Tromeo and Juliet, one of Troma Films' greatest movies. Hands down. There's no doubt of it. It totally ranks with Toxic Avenger, in my opinion. Tromeo and Juliet, the classic retelling of the Shakespeare story. Young filmmaker Tromeo falls in love with Juliet, the daughter of his former partner, who tried to steal away his pornographic movie business, just like Shakespeare, just like the original Shakespeare, of course, directed by the fabulous Lloyd Kaufman. And it's such a great film. I just totally dig the hell out of Tromeo and Juliet. And it's on Tubi now, folks. Another one I dig the living shit out of, and it's Geek War from 2010. Folks, if you want to have a good time and laugh at a very no-budget film, sci-fi comedy type of film about geeks and nerds and comic book stores, watch Geek War. Watch it. Now, it's definitely R-rated. There's no doubt about that. It's an R-rated type of film. It's not for kids. But it is at times hysterical. I just love the comedy timing in this film. Two nerds and a young woman fight over a mysterious VHS tape that dwells in the comic book shop of an eccentric shop owner named Deathbone. Check it out. I've got the trailer. It's a rather short trailer, but it's so damn funny.
New shades on, look absolutely fine. Stroll down the lane, all the passers-by. No time of day, no, I don't get none. I turn away, frustrated disarray. Who will fight to blame? Leave me crying shame. I'm never to complain for you. I will entertain. I can't explain these attempts at drain, but I can't give in. All efforts will be spent in vain. Yeah, 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 yeah. She got too much attitude. Yeah, 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 yeah. Alright, too much attitude. She's so fine, she's not mine. What will I do? What will I say? I wanna understand. Try to be a man. I'm laughing at my troubles as they come my way. Who will fight to blame? Let me cry and shame. I'm never to complain for you. I will entertain. For I can't explain these attempts at drain, but I can't give in. All efforts will be spent in vain. Yeah, 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 yeah. She got too much attitude. Yeah, 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 yeah. Too much attitude. New shades on. Look absolutely fine.
And scene.
It's just a wonderful film. It's hilarious. It'll put a smile on your face. Just get ready for some occasional sick humor, I guess. It's so great. It's like, you know, Chris Seaver, the guy that made this film, he's made a ton of no-budget movies. I mean, he makes these movies for several $1,000s, kind of like me, actually. But Geek War is a really good comedy, and it's about geeking out, nerding out, hanging out at comic book stores, you know, obsessing over this mysterious videotape that has something on it.